The marketplace shamed the sun was high above the alien city, its light spilling over the market square. Stalls were filled with colorful fabrics, shining metals, and strange fruits from faraway worlds. Voices shouted prices, merchants argued, and buyers bargained. It was loud, busy, and full of life. But in one corner of the marketplace, all the noise seemed to stop. There sat a girl, her clothes torn, her hair matted with dust and grease. Her skin was darkened, not by nature, but by layers of dirt. She looked weak, her eyes empty, her hands clutching her knees as if holding herself together. People passed by quickly, pretending not to see her. Children whispered and pointed. Mothers pulled them away. "Don't go near her," they said. "She's dirty." The girl lowered her head. Her stomach growled. But no one offered food. Her throat was dry. But no one shared water. Some merchants even shouted at her, "Go away. You scare customers." The girl did not answer. She simply stayed still, too tired to move, too broken to cry. Then came the cruel laughter of a group of guards. They stood over her, pointing at her like she was an animal. "Look at this creature," one of them said. "Filthy, cursed. Not even worth a coin," the others laughed. Their voices were sharp, cutting deeper than any blade. One guard lifted his boot, nudging her shoulder. "Get up, trash. You don't belong here." The girl shivered, but she did not fight back. She had learned that fighting only brought more pain. Her eyes flicked up for a second, shining faintly through the dirt. Then they quickly dropped again. She whispered something, but her voice was too soft to hear. In the crowd, one human stood still. His name was Daniel, a traveler passing through the alien city. He had come only to buy supplies, yet something pulled his gaze to the girl. While others looked away in disgust, he could not. His heart clenched at the sight of her small figure. Shaking in the dust, the guards laughed again. One reaching down to grab her by the arm, the girl whimpered, trying to shrink away. Daniel's jaw tightened. He could not stand by any longer. He stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "That's enough," he said. The marketplace grew quiet. The guards turned, surprised that someone dared to speak. The crowd whispered, shocked that a stranger interfered. "She's cursed," someone hissed. "Touch her, and you'll regret it." Daniel ignored them. He bent down, his hand stretching toward the girl. She looked up in fear, not used to kindness. Her lips parted as if to beg him not to hurt her. Daniel's hand did not strike. It rested gently on her shoulder. Steady and warm, gasps erupted around them. Never before had anyone touched the dirty alien girl. People muttered, shaking their heads. Some spat on the ground. Others backed away as if Daniel had doomed himself. The girl froze, her body stiff under his hand. For a long moment, she did not breathe. Then, slowly, tears formed in her eyes. She whispered a word, broken and trembling. Why? Daniel met her gaze, his voice soft but unshaken. "Because no one deserves to be treated like this." The guards frowned, unsure if they should laugh or be angry. One of them sneered, "You'll regret this." Human, but Daniel did not move away. He helped the girl stand. Her legs weak, her body shaking, she leaned against him, confused but clinging to the only kindness she had felt in years. The marketplace buzzed with whispers. Fear, shock, and curiosity mixed together. Who was this human to defy the unspoken rule? And who exactly was this girl? Abandoned in the dirt, yet still carrying eyes that glowed faintly like hidden stars. For the first time in a long time, the girl felt a fragile spark inside her chest. A spark of hope, fragile but alive. The human steps in Daniel stood tall in the middle of the marketplace. The alien girl leaned against him. Too weak to stand on her own, the guards glared, their hands resting on their weapons. The crowd gathered in a circle. whispering and waiting to see what would happen next. "Step away, human," one guard barked. His voice echoed with authority. "This thing doesn't belong here." He gestured toward the girl as if she were no more than trash. The other guards laughed, but unease flickered in their eyes. They had not expected anyone to interfere. Daniel tightened his grip on the girl's arm. Steadying her, she was trembling like a leaf. Her head still bowed, he spoke clearly. His voice carrying across the square, "She's not trash. She's a person." A wave of gasps spread through the crowd. Some scoffed, others shook their heads. No one had dared to call her a person in years. One alien merchant muttered, "The human must be mad." Another spat, "He'll bring a curse on himself." The guards moved closer. Towering over Daniel, "Leave her," one growled, "or we'll make you regret it." Their hands tightened on their stun batons. The air grew tense, the marketplace waiting for violence. But Daniel did not back down. His blue eyes burned with quiet defiance. He was only one man, unarmed, standing against armored guards. Yet something about his stillness made the guards hesitate. The girl lifted her head slightly. Her eyes, hidden beneath dirt and tangled hair, widened. She had never seen anyone defend her. Not once in her long years of shame had someone spoken for her. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Daniel reached into his pack and pulled out a flask. He unscrewed the cap and pressed it gently into her hands. "Drink," he said softly. The girl hesitated. Looking at him with disbelief, her throat burned with thirst. And finally, she raised the flask to her lips. The crowd gasped again. Shock rippled through them like a wave. He had touched her, and now he had given her water. It was unthinkable. The girl drank greedily, coughing as the cool liquid slid down her dry throat. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Mixing with the dirt, she whispered, almost too quiet to hear, "Why? Why are you helping me?" Daniel crouched slightly so his eyes met hers. His voice was firm but gentle. "Because you deserve better than this." A murmur rose from the crowd. Some sneered, others stared in silence. The guards exchanged looks, uncertain. Finally, the leader spat on the ground. "She's your problem now, human. Don't come crying when she brings misfortune to your door." With that, they turned and walked away, their laughter sharp but uneasy. The crowd began to scatter. Some still watched Daniel with curiosity, some with pity, others with anger, but no one dared to stop him. Daniel helped the girl to her feet. She leaned against him. Her legs too weak to carry her weight, he wrapped his arm gently around her shoulder. Guiding her out of the marketplace, each step drew more whispers. More stares, but Daniel ignored them. His focus was on the girl. Her voice was faint, almost lost in the noise. You shouldn't do this," she said. "They will hate you too." Daniel gave a small smile. "Let them. I don't care what they think." His tone was steady, filled with a quiet strength that made her chest ache as they moved through the streets. Shopkeepers closed their stalls. Doors slammed shut. The girl lowered her head, ashamed. She had always been treated like a curse. And now this man carried that burden willingly. It made no sense to her, but somewhere deep inside, buried beneath years of pain, a fragile warmth stirred. Maybe, just maybe, she was not as worthless as the world had told her. Daniel guided her toward the edge of the city, to the small place he called home, behind them. The marketplace slowly returned to life, yet whispers continued to spread. The human had touched the dirty alien girl. He had given her water. He had claimed her as someone worth saving. And that act, small yet defiant, would change both their lives forever. Asterisk. The walk through the streets. Daniel guided the girl through the narrow streets of the alien city. The noise of the marketplace faded behind them, replaced by whispers that followed like shadows. People leaned from doorways. their eyes sharp and suspicious. Some muttered curses. Others crossed the street to avoid them. The girl walked slowly, her bare feet dragging on the uneven ground. Every step looked painful, but she did not complain. Her body swayed with weakness, and more than once Daniel tightened his grip to keep her from falling. She clutched the flask he had given her as if it were treasure, sipping tiny drops to make it last. Children peeked from corners, pointing with wide eyes. "The dirty one," they whispered. The human touched her. Their mothers pulled them away. Whispering warnings, the girl lowered her head even further. Ashamed, her tangled hair fell over her face. Hiding her tears, Daniel's jaw clenched as he noticed the fear in people's eyes. Not fear of her strength, but fear of her very presence. It was as if she carried some invisible disease. He did not understand, and the more he looked at her trembling form, the more his anger grew at their cruelty. A group of alien men stepped into the path ahead, their faces twisted with disgust. "Turn back, human," one sneered. "That thing is cursed. She will ruin you." Another spat at the ground near the girl's feet. "She doesn't belong here. Throw her away before it's too late." The girl's shoulders tensed. Her hands shook as she whispered, "Please, I'll go. I don't want to cause trouble." She tried to pull away, her body trembling with panic. Her voice cracked as she added, "They'll hurt you if you stay with me." But Daniel held her arm firmly, not with force, but with steady comfort. His voice was calm but unyielding. "She stays with me," he said. "Now move aside." The men looked at each other, shocked by his defiance. For a moment, it seemed they might attack. But something in Daniel's eyes made them hesitate. His steady gaze, his fearless posture. It was not the strength of his body, but the strength of his will that unsettled them. After a tense pause, the men stepped aside, muttering curses under their breath. Daniel guided the girl past them. She glanced up at him, her lips trembling as if she wanted to say something, but the words never came. Her chest ached, her heart was confused. No one had ever defended her before. No one had ever chosen her over the crowd. The streets grew quieter as they moved further from the market. The homes here were smaller, walls cracked, roofs patched with old metal. A dog-like creature barked from behind a fence. The girl flinched at the sound, but Daniel kept walking, steady and calm. At one point, she whispered, "Why? Why are you doing this?" Her voice was raw, filled with confusion. "You don't even know me." Daniel glanced at her. His reply was simple. "I don't need to know you to see you deserve better." Her eyes stung with tears. She quickly turned her face away, afraid he might see them. Her whole life had been filled with rejection. People treating her like dirt, like she was less than nothing. And now here was someone who saw her as a person. It felt like a dream she didn't dare to believe. Finally, they reached the edge of the city. Where the streets grew narrow and quiet, Daniel's small home stood near the old wall. Its roof patched but sturdy. Smoke curled faintly from the chimney. A sign of warmth inside, the girl stopped at the doorway. Her body tense, she looked at him with wide eyes, fear and hope battling within them. No one had ever invited her into a home before, she whispered. "You really want me here?" Daniel nodded once. Firm and steady. "Yes, you're safe here for the first time." The girl's lips trembled into the smallest of smiles. Weak but real, and as she stepped across the threshold, she carried with her the fragile spark of something she had almost forgotten, hope. The first shower. Daniel opened the wooden door of his small home. The space was simple, a single room with a cooking corner, a table and a small bed. A faint smell of firewood and herbs lingered in the air. The alien girl hesitated at the doorway, her dirty feet pressing against the floorboards. She looked as if stepping inside would break some ancient rule. "You can come in," Daniel said gently. His voice was steady. offering her something no one else ever had permission to belong. She stepped inside slowly, her eyes darting around as if afraid of breaking something. Her hands clutched the flask against her chest. Daniel moved toward a small door at the side of the room. He opened it to reveal a narrow space with pipes and a water tank. Steam curled faintly from inside. "There's hot water," he said. "You can clean yourself here." The girl's eyes widened. Hot water was something she had only seen from a distance. Never touched. Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she shook her head quickly. "No, I can't," she whispered. Her voice was filled with fear. "I'm not allowed. No one lets me." Daniel's gaze softened. He crouched down to her level. His tone was calm. "You're allowed here. You deserve this." Her eyes filled with tears. She trembled, as if his words were too much to believe. After a long pause, she gave the smallest nod. Daniel stepped back, giving her space. "I'll leave the door half open so you're not afraid. No one will hurt you here." The girl stepped into the small room. Her hands brushed against the metal walls, warm from the pipes. She stared at the handle of the shower like it was a sacred artifact. With a trembling hand, she turned it. A sudden rush of water fell. Steam rising around her, she gasped. The sound sharp and broken. The first drops touched her skin, sliding down her arms, washing away streaks of dirt. For a moment, she froze. Then her body shook. She pressed her hands under the stream, watching the grime melt away. She let out a sound, part sob, part laugh. Daniel stood near the doorway, not looking in, only listening. He heard the water fall harder, and with it, the sound of quiet sobs. It was not just a shower. It was years of pain, shame, and rejection being washed away, drop by drop. Inside, the girl rubbed her arms, watching as her skin slowly changed color. Beneath the layers of dirt, pale skin appeared, smooth and soft. Strange glowing marks shimmered faintly along her shoulders. She gasped and quickly covered them with her hands, afraid Daniel might see her hair. Once tangled and heavy with dust, loosened under the water. It fell around her shoulders in dark waves. Shining faintly under the light, she touched it in disbelief. Her reflection in the metal panel was blurred, but even so, she did not look like the cursed creature the city had mocked. She looked alive. Minutes passed, and finally, she turned off the water. Her body felt lighter. Her heart both fragile and strong. She stepped out, wrapped in an old cloth Daniel had left for her. Steam curled from her skin. Her eyes were red from crying. But her face was different now. Beneath the grime she was striking, delicate yet strong. Daniel turned his head when she stepped out, his breath caught for just a moment. Not because of beauty in the ordinary sense, but because he could see the person she truly was, no longer hidden under dirt and shame, but someone with dignity. The girl lowered her gaze. "Embarrassed," she whispered. "I don't look like myself." Daniel shook his head. "No. You look like who you were always meant to be." Her heart pounded at his words. She clutched the cloth tighter, unsure what to do with the warmth spreading inside her chest. It was not just the shower that cleansed her. It was his belief in her worth, something she had long forgotten. And as she stood in that small home, clean for the first time in years, she realized something terrifying and beautiful. She wanted to believe him. Asterisk. The hidden marks. The fire crackled softly in the corner of Daniel's small home. Its warm glow filled the room. The alien girl sat near the fire. Wrapped in the cloth he had given her, her damp hair clung to her shoulders. She held her knees close to her chest, her eyes darting around the room as if she still did not believe she was safe. Daniel placed a pot of soup on the table. The smell of herbs filled the air. He glanced at her, noticing the way she avoided his gaze. "You should eat," he said. "It will give you strength." Slowly, she nodded. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the bowl. She sipped the broth carefully. Her lips parted in surprise. It was warm, soft, comforting. She had not tasted kindness in so long. It made her chest ache as she leaned forward. The cloth slipped slightly from her shoulder. Daniel's eyes caught a faint glow. At first, he thought it was the reflection of the fire. But then he saw it clearly strange marks across her skin, like patterns of light buried beneath her flesh. They curved and spiraled, glowing faintly in the dim room. The girl noticed his stare. Her body stiffened instantly. She pulled the cloth tightly around her, her face pale with fear. "Don't look," she whispered. Her voice was sharp but broken. "Please." "Don't look at me." Daniel blinked, confused. "What are those?" he asked gently. His voice carried no judgment. "Only curiosity." She shook her head quickly, her hair falling into her face. "Nothing. There, nothing." "You didn't see anything." Her words were desperate, her breathing fast. She looked ready to run, even though she had nowhere to go. Daniel raised his hand slowly, as if calming a frightened animal. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "You don't need to hide from me." Her lips trembled, her eyes filled with tears. "You don't understand," she whispered. "These marks. They are the reason no one will touch me. They say I am cursed, that anyone near me will suffer misfortune." Her voice cracked. "That's why they left me in the streets." Daniel's chest tightened. He studied her face, seeing the pain carved into every line. "Cursed," he repeated softly, "or chosen." Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. "What?" she breathed. Daniel pointed at the faint glowing marks peeking from beneath the cloth. "Those don't look like curses. They look like something important. Something powerful." The girl shook her head, fresh tears rolling down her cheeks. "No. You don't know what they've done to me. They threw stones. They spat. They said I was a danger to them. They said I was born wrong." She clutched her arms tightly, as if trying to erase the marks from her skin. "I believed them." Daniel's voice was steady. "Maybe they were afraid because they didn't understand. People often hate what they don't know." He leaned closer, his tone firm. "But I'm not afraid of you." Her breath hitched. She stared at him. Searching his eyes for a lie, she found none. His gaze was calm, unwavering for the first time in her life. Someone looked at her marks without disgust. Her voice was soft, almost broken. "Why? Why are you not afraid?" Daniel's answer was simple. "Because I see a person, not a curse." The words hit her like a storm. Her heart raced. She pressed her face into her knees, trying to hide the sobs shaking her body. She did not want to cry, yet the tears flowed freely. Daniel sat silently, giving her space. He did not move closer, did not reach for her. He simply let her cry, letting the firelight dance between them. When her sobs finally slowed, she looked at him again. Her voice fragile but filled with something new. "Maybe you're right." And though fear still lingered in her heart, a seed of belief was planted. A seed that maybe her marks were not chains, but something else entirely. The night whispers night settled over the alien city. The sounds of the marketplace had long faded. Daniel's small home was quiet, except for the soft crackle of the fire. The alien girl lay curled on the floor near the warmth. Wrapped in the cloth, her breathing was slow, almost steady. But Daniel could see the tension in her shoulders. She was not used to peace, not used to safety. Daniel sat by the table. Watching the flames, his thoughts wandered to the marks on her skin, glowing faintly when the light touched them. They were beautiful, like stars written into her flesh. Yet they were also the reason she suffered so deeply. He wondered what truth they carried. The silence broke when he heard her whisper. At first, he thought she was dreaming, but her voice carried too much pain. "Please don't leave me," she murmured. Her body shook as she clutched the cloth tighter. Daniel's chest ached at the sound. He moved closer, kneeling beside her. "I'm not leaving," he said softly. His voice was steady, like a hand reaching through the dark. Her eyes fluttered open, wide and wet. She stared at him as if unsure he was real. Her lips parted, and words slipped out in a trembling rush. "Everyone leaves. Everyone pushes me away. They say I bring shame. They say I ruin everything I touch." She shivered, her voice breaking. "I can't be alone again. I can't." Daniel placed his hand gently on the floor beside her. "Close, but not touching. You're not alone anymore," he said. "Not while I'm here." The girl's throat tightened. Her heart pounded. She wanted to believe him. But fear wrapped around her like chains. Slowly, as if peeling back a wound, she began to speak. "I was not always in the streets," she whispered. "I was born in a great house. My family had power, respect, servants. But when the marks appeared, everything changed." Her eyes filled with tears as memories surfaced. "The priests declared me cursed. My family turned away. My mother wept. My father. He cast me out. They said I was dangerous. They said I would bring ruin." Daniel listened in silence, his jaw clenched. He could picture Eitan's innocent child condemned for something beyond her control. Her voice grew softer, filled with raw pain. "I wandered the city, begging for scraps. People spat. They struck me. They told their children not to look at me. The guards laughed as they chased me. I wanted to vanish, but I couldn't. I lived in shadows, waiting for the day my body would give up." Her tears fell freely now. "But it never did. I kept breathing, even when I wished I wouldn't." Daniel's voice was low, but firm. "You survived. That means something." She looked at him, her face streaked with tears. "It means I was too weak to end it," she whispered bitterly. Daniel shook his head, his eyes steady. "No. It means you were strong enough to endure what no one else could." The words hit her hard. Her breath caught. She had never been called strong before. Always cursed, always weak, never strong. A fragile warmth spread inside her chest. She turned her face away, whispering, "What if you regret helping me? What if tomorrow you change your mind?" Like they all did. Daniel leaned back, his gaze unshaken. "Then tomorrow I'll tell you the same thing I tell you now. You are not a curse, and I will not leave you." The girl's tears slowed. Her trembling softened. She curled tighter into the cloth, her heart heavy but less hollow for the first time. Her whispers carried not only fear, but also a fragile hope as the night deepened. Daniel stayed awake by the fire, keeping watch. The girl drifted into uneasy sleep, her breathing steadier. In her dreams, she still carried fear. But in the corner of her heart, a spark glowed. A spark lit by a human who refused to walk away. Asterisk. The hunter's pure morning light crept through the cracks in the shutters. Daniel stirred from his chair near the fire. His back ached from sleeping upright, but his eyes went first to the girl. She was still curled under the cloth, breathing softly. Her face was calmer than the night before, though faint shadows of fear still clung to her. Daniel rose quietly, stepping outside into the narrow street. The city was waking, vendors setting up their stalls, children running with laughter, yet something felt different in the air. The usual buzz carried an edge of tension. People glanced around nervously, whispering in low voices. At the far end of the street, 3 figures appeared. Their armor was black and sharp, their steps heavy. They carried strange weapons on their backs. Faces hidden under masks, they were not city guards, these were hunters. Their movements were too precise, their eyes too cold. Daniel froze, his instincts tightening. He watched as they stopped a merchant, showing a small hologram. The image flickered. But Daniel's heart dropped when he saw it. It was the girl, dirty and broken. Just as she had looked in the marketplace, the merchant pointed down the street. The hunters nodded and moved on, their boots striking the ground like drums of doom. Daniel slipped back inside, closing the door quietly. His heart pounded. The girl stirred, opening her eyes. "What's wrong?" she whispered, her voice still rough from sleep. "They're looking for you," Daniel said softly. His tone was calm but urgent. "Hunters, they have your image." The girl sat up quickly, fear flashing across her face. Her hands clutched the cloth tighter. Her voice cracked. "No, not them. They'll take me back. They'll kill me." Daniel crouched beside her, his hand steady on her shoulder. "Listen, you're safe here. I won't let them touch you." Tears welled in her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "They've been following me for years. They don't stop. They say I carry forbidden blood. That I must be erased." She trembled. "If they find me here, they'll destroy you too." Daniel's gaze hardened. His voice was low but firm. "Then they'll have to go through me first." The girl stared at him, shocked. No one had ever said such words for her. She wanted to protest, to tell him he was foolish, but her voice broke, replaced with silent sobs. She clung to the cloth as if it were her last shield. Outside, the sound of boots drew closer. Voices barked orders. Doors slammed as neighbors hurried inside. Daniel peeked through the shutter. The hunters were only houses away, scanning every doorway, every shadow. He looked back at the girl. Her glowing marks faintly pulsed under the cloth. She was shaking, but her eyes locked onto his, searching for something. Daniel's voice steadied. "Do you trust me?" Her lips trembled. I want to," she whispered. "Then stay quiet. And stay close," Daniel said. He grabbed a small tool from his tebola, simple metal rod he had used for repairs. It was no match for alien weapons, but his grip on it was steady. The boots stopped outside his door. A deep voice rang out. "Open, human. We are searching for a runaway, dangerous, cursed. Hand her over if you value your life." Daniel's heartbeat thundered. He glanced at the girl, her face pale with terror. Then he turned to the door, his jaw clenched. His voice was calm. "There's no one here but me." The silence that followed was sharp. The hunters were not easily fooled. One of them muttered something in their alien tongue. Heavy with suspicion, the girl pressed her hand against her chest, her marks glowing faintly beneath the cloth. Her heart prayed he could protect her, prayed that for once in her cursed life, someone's promise would hold true. Outside, a fist slammed against the door. The hunters had no intention of leaving. The human's defiance. The hunters pounded on the wooden door again. The sound echoed through the small home. Each strike rattled the frame. The alien girl flinched with every thud, curling into herself like a child waiting for punishment. Daniel stood tall, gripping the metal rod in his hand. His jaw tightened, his eyes burned with quiet fire. He had no armor, no advanced weapon, just his will. Yet, in that moment, it was enough. The leader of the hunters shouted from outside. "Last warning, human, hand over the cursed one. If you resist, we will burn this house and drag you out with her." Daniel took a slow breath. His voice rang out steady through the wooden door. "She is not cursed. She is under my protection." A shocked silence followed. Then mocking laughter, the hunters sneered. "Protection," one scoffed. "From you, a human with no rank, no power. You dare defy us." Daniel's hand tightened on the rod. He opened the door slowly, stepping out into the street. The sunlight hit his face. The crowd was already gathering. Neighbors peeking from windows, merchants whispering to each other. Everyone knew what defying hunters meant. The three armored figures stood in front of the house, weapons glinting in the morning light. Their masks reflected his image, small yet unyielding. The leader stepped forward. His voice sharp, "Step aside. This is your last chance." Daniel lifted the rod and planted it firmly on the ground. His voice carried through the square. "She stays with me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Never before had anyone dared to challenge hunters. Some whispered, "The human is mad." Others murmured, "He'll be killed." The hunters raised their weapons. Energy crackled faintly in the air. The girl peeked through the crack of the doorway. Her heart pounded. She wanted to scream for him to stop, to surrender her, anything to save his life. But her voice froze in her throat. Daniel did not flinch. He stared straight at the leader. His words cut through the tense silence. "You call her cursed because you fear her. But I see someone worth protecting. If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The crowd gasped again. Shock and disbelief filled their eyes. A simple human, daring to stand against armored hunters, his defiance shook the air like a storm. The hunters paused. Their leader tilted his head, studying Daniel. His tone dripped with mockery. "You would fight us for her? A filthy street rat. Why is she your slave? Your toy?" Daniel's voice thundered back. "She is neither. She is a person. And no one has the right to treat her as less." The words echoed in the marketplace, striking deeper than any blade for years. The people had mocked, shunned, and spat on the girl. Yet here was an outsider human who declared her dignity out loud. The hunter's laughter died, replaced by irritation. The leader signaled, and the other to spread out, ready to strike. Energy hummed in their weapons. Sparks flickered in the air. Daniel raised the rod. His stance firm, his heart raced, but his spirit did not waver. He knew he was only one man, but he also knew that silence in the face of cruelty was worse than death. The girl pressed her hand to her chest. Her marks pulsed beneath her skin, glowing faintly. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Why? Why would you risk everything?" Inside, she knew the answer. Because he saw her. Not as a curse, not as dirt, but as someone worth saving. The street grew silent, waiting for the clash. The hunters advanced slowly, weapons ready. Daniel's voice cut through one last time, fierce and unbreakable. "You will not take her." And with those words, the fight was inevitable. The fight for her life, the street held its breath. The hunters stepped forward, their armored boots striking the ground like thunder. Energy pulsed from their weapons, humming with deadly promise. The crowd shrank back, no one daring to interfere. All eyes were fixed on the human who stood alone. Daniel's grip tightened on the metal rod. He knew it was nothing against their advanced weapons. But he also knew fear was a weapon too, and he would not show it. His voice rang out steady. "If you want her, then fight me." The leader sneered behind his mask. "So be it." With a sharp gesture, one hunter lunged forward, swinging his glowing blade downward. The strike would have cut a weaker man in half, but Daniel sidestepped quickly, the blade smashing sparks against the stone. The crowd gasped. Daniel swung the rod hard. Striking the hunter's arm, the blow wasn't strong enough to break armor. But it rattled the alien, forcing him back a step. The human's defiance was real. The second hunter charged. Raising his weapon, Daniel ducked low, rolling across the dirt. He grabbed a handful of sand and threw it into the hunter's visor. The alien roared, stumbling as his vision blurred. The crowd erupted with murmurs, shock filling their voices. The human was fighting smart. The girl watched from the doorway, her hands clutching the frame, her chest tightened with fear. But her eyes widened with awe. He was not stronger, not faster, but he was clever. His every move was unexpected. The leader of the hunters growled, anger sparking in his tone. Enough games. End him. The blinded alien swung wildly, His blade slicing the air, Daniel barely ducked under it. Sweat dripping down his brow, he jabbed the rod into the alien's knee joint. The alien collapsed with a roar, sparks flying from his armor. The crowd gasped louder, some even cheered. Whispers spreading like fire. The human. He's standing against them, but the fight was far from over. The first hunter recovered, charging with renewed fury. His blade slashed across Daniel's side. Grazing flesh, Daniel hissed in pain. But he did not fall. His stance wavered, yet his eyes stayed fierce. The girl's glowing marks pulsed brighter. Her whole body shook. She wanted to run to him, to shield him. But her legs were frozen. Her voice cracked as she cried, "Please, stop." "They'll kill you." Daniel's chest heaved. His blood dripped, but his words cut through the chaos. "Not while you live." The leader raised his hand, preparing a final strike. Energy swirled at the tip of his weapon. Daniel braced himself, but before the blow could fall, the girl's marks flared like fire. The light burst through the cloth, casting strange patterns across the street. The hunters froze, their masks turning toward her. Fear flickered in their eyes. For the first time, they hesitated. The crowd gasped, backing away. Some shielded their faces from the sudden glow. The girl stepped forward, trembling but defiant. Her voice rose, broken yet powerful. "I am not cursed," she shouted. "I am alive, and I will not be erased." Daniel staggered to his feet beside her. His rod lifted, his voice steady. "She stands with me, and I will fight until my last breath to keep her free," the hunters growled. But the hesitation lingered. Their mission was clear. Yet the girl's glow was dangerous, unpredictable, maybe even sacred. The leader snarled, lowering his weapon. "This isn't finished, human." "We will return." The hunters retreated slowly. Their armor clanking, the crowd erupted in murmurs. Some voices trembled with fear, others with awe. Never before had hunters been defied. Never before had the dirty girl stood in light instead of shadow. Daniel leaned heavily on the rod, blood still dripping from his side. The girl rushed to his arm, her tears falling freely. "You're hurt," she whispered. He smiled faintly. Though pain flickered in his eyes, "I'm alive." "That's enough." And as the hunters vanished into the distance, the bond between them was no longer just kindness. It was forged in defiance, in fire, in the fight for her life. A new beginning. The streets slowly emptied after the hunters left. The whispers of the crowd still lingered in the air. People spoke in hushed voices about what they had seen. A human who stood against hunters. A girl once called dirty, glowing like a star. Nothing in the city would ever feel the same again. Daniel leaned heavily on the rod, his shirt stained with blood. His breaths short and rough. The girl clung to his arm, guiding him back inside the small home. Her heart trembled with fear and relief. He had fought for her, bled for her, and still stood tall. Inside, she laid him gently near the fire. Her hands shook as she pressed cloth against his wound. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You could have died." Daniel gave a faint smile, his voice hoarse but steady. "And let them take you." "Never." Her chest tightened. Her tears fell harder. She had lived so long believing no one would ever stand by her. Yet here was someone who not only stood but risked everything. She could not understand it, but she could feel it. Warm and real. Hours passed. Daniel rested while the girl watched over him. Outside, the city still buzzed with rumors. Some feared the hunters would return with more soldiers. Some whispered that maybe the girl was not cursed, but chosen. The story of the human and the outcast spread like fire. By evening, Daniel stirred, his pain dulled, but his eyes steady. He looked at the girl sitting by the fire. Her glowing marks shone faintly now. Not hidden, not feared. He spoke softly. You don't need to cover them anymore. The girl's eyes widened. Her hands instinctively moved to pull the cloth over her shoulders. But she stopped, his words echoing in her heart. Slowly, she lowered her hands, letting the faint glow remain visible. For the first time, she did not hide. They're beautiful, Daniel said. His voice calm, his eyes unwavering, her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken of her marks with such kindness. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "If I'm not cursed." "Then what am I?" Daniel leaned back, closing his eyes briefly before answering, "You are who you decide to be. Not what they called you, not what they feared. You are you." The words struck deep. Her heart raced, hope bloomed inside her chest. Fragile yet powerful, she looked at him, her voice soft but filled with new strength. "Then I want to be more than what they made me. I want to be someone who lives, not hides." Daniel smiled faintly. "Then that's who you'll be." The fire crackled, filling the silence with warmth. For a long moment they sat together. No hunters, no crowd. Just two souls bound by choice and courage. Outside, the sky shifted to night, stars glimmering above the city walls. The girl walked to the doorway, looking up. The same stars she had once watched from the cold streets now felt different. They no longer seemed distant for the first time. She felt she could reach them. Daniel joined her slowly, leaning on the doorway. His side still bandaged, but his eyes calm. She glanced at him, her voice almost a whisper. "Where do we go from here?" He looked at the stars with her. His answer, simple, forward, together. Her lips curved into a real smile. Small but alive. She nodded, the spark inside her chest burned brighter. No longer just survival, but the start of a new life. The girl once called dirty was no longer alone. She had been seen, defended, and believed in. And in that belief, a new beginning was born. Asterisk,